It looks like Andrew Tate is going to become Britain's first misogyny terrorist. This is going to be a new criminal category, I think, under the Labour feminist government.
Is he resident in the UK? He's not?
No.
Okay.
No, but he is resident on their Twitter timelines. You see. And this, I really mean this. This is the crux of everything about British politics. They only react to what they see. Sensory input is the very basis of their understanding of the world. And if all they see is Andrew Tate being a misogynist on their timeline, they're like, oh, well, this has to be dealt with. This has to be dealt with. There have to be consequences to this because we are now the feminist Karens in charge of the country. And I really
mean... extradited. Wonder if you've had extradite him. That'd be good fun.
I mean, they're threatened to extradite Elon Musk. So if they're going to extradite even someone like that, they may as well extradite Andrew Tate.
Is it in Romania he lives?
Apparently, yeah.
So they sent like an SAS team to sweep him off the streets of Romania, bundle him in a plane.
Isn't like, who knows? We're in uncharted territory because at the moment, a cabal of feminist Karens are actually in control of the government. Now, I realise that everyone's going to be like, well, hang on a second, that sounds a bit over the top. But it's like, no, actually, it's completely true. And we've followed these people's careers for the last 15 or so years. So, I mean, we can just name them. Yvette Cooper, Harriet Harman, Lady Harriet Harman, Jess Phillips, Stella Creasy, and there's a bunch of others. These people form, and I'm saying this as a quote in their own words, a kind of feminist network in Parliament. Now, the reason I know about this is because I read Jess Phillips' books. Written like...
Fortunate for you.
Well, no, no.
So we don't have to.
Right, yeah.
Easiest read in the world. It was written like it was written by a child, right? It's the sort of language capacity of a child. But in one of her books, I can't remember which one it was now, Jess Phillips just explains that there's a feminist cabal that works in Parliament doing all of these things, getting on various committees and, passing legislation, doing all the sort of things, because they're feminists. And so they all work together very, very closely. And now this cabal is actually in charge of the Home Office. Yvette Cooper is currently the Home Secretary. She's a core part of this. Jess Phillips is a minister in the Home Office, and again, doing what, who knows. Stella Creasy and all these other Labour feminist MPs are currently in charge of the country. So where you thought, oh, well, the sort of 2015 man-hating feminists have disappeared, no, they were biding their time. And now they've come back, Keir Starmer has taken over, and he's put them in charge of our country. And so now we're getting misogyny as a terrorist offence. This is genuinely where we are now.
Because that's because Keir Starmer isn't really in charge. I mean, he's such a weak individual. He didn't really run anything. He ran and, well, I'm Keir, I'm a bit different. So it's no wonder you've got all these women behind him because...
Well, it's not... For? The thing is, framing it like that implies that Keir Starmer doesn't agree with all of this anyway, right?
Yes.
And he's just being sort of like, oh, I'm just an idiot. No, he is an idiot, but he does also agree with all of this. Yeah. Like, he is as radically left-wing as any of these people, which is why he's chosen them to be a part of his cabinet, to be a part of his government, to be a part, to lead all of the institutions.
I was listening to an interesting David Starkey video the other day, and of course he was saying things that are just de rigueur, should be obvious, absolutely obvious, that the law should apply to everybody equally, regardless of sex, age, creed, blah, 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 blah. But no, women's suffering is more important than men's.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. There's nothing extra in place for misandry.
You know what?
In fact, male suicide is funny, actually, isn't it?
Well, that's...
According to Ms. Phillips.
According to some... elements of this feminist cabal, but I'm going to surprise you a little bit later in the segment. Okay. Actually, misandry is bad.
Oh, is it?
With conditions.
Oh,
but we'll get to
it.
So the context for all of this is that, as you can see here, violent attacks on women and girls on trains have risen by more than 50% in 2 years. Now, as LBC tell us, they've gone from 7,500 to over 11,000 in 2023. And so this is a huge increase. And sexual harassment claims reported have doubled over the same period of 2 years. And this has become something that obviously the feminist cabal is very concerned about, and rightly so. There's an understandable, this very concerning thing. In London, attacks on women going up by 50% in 2 years.
British men have just suddenly become more violent.
Yes. That's precisely
suddenly.
It. You see, the men are on British soil, which definitionally makes them British men.
Yep. Makes sense.
And for some reason, they're far more aggressive and violent towards women. Apparently, half of fellow passengers don't come to the aid of women either. So 50% of the time, just no one helps. which is your social contract society at work, folks. And most of these offences take place on, quote, busy trains during the evening, rush hour between 5 and 7 p.m. So, I mean, we're not going to talk about the demographics of London. We're just going to say British men. And so Jess Phillips, again, a minister at the Home Office, says, this is unacceptable. In this day and age, no woman should have to plan her journeys by public transport based on when and where she will feel safe. Yeah, that is the daily experience for millions of women, whether they're commuting to and from work or arranging an evening out with friends. Getting on a night bus or a near-empty train to go home should not feel like taking your life in your hands. I agree with all of this, just to be clear.
Yeah,
right?
It shouldn't, yeah.
Shouldn't. Whether these figures reflect an increase in reporting or an increase in the volume of crime, one thing is clear: the level of violence, sexual harassment, and sexual offences against women and girls cannot be allowed to go unchallenged. To which I agree, but I may also add, you literally voted for this. This is the Labour policy, is bring in as many people from outside who do not quite share the same values as you, and now you're seeing the fruits of the poison seed. So, okay.
Couple more mate campaigns might sort it out.
Yeah, maybe
Throw
Sadiq
5 million
Khan
out.
can solve this. I mean, this has been under Sadiq Khan in Sadiq Khan's London. No mention of that. You know, Labour for the last, 15 years, something like that? How long has Sadiq Khan been the mayor?
Oh, forever.
Yeah,
forever.
It feels like since the dawn of time, since the Romans founded it.
But it's two things. It's an open door. People coming in, you don't know who they are and what values they aspire to, or maybe you do, and that's why they're letting them in.
Know where they come from. Yeah.
But the second part is actually lack of punishment. If you look, I mean, annually, 68,000 rapes are actually reported to the police every year, and yet of those 2% are actually ended up with a charge. So if you don't actually have a system in place that punishes people for wrongdoing, then this is what you get. People think I can do what I like and get away with it. Is if you don't punish people for not having a ticket on the train. Every time I go and use the tube, every time I see someone going through the barriers, the police just watch it. So if you don't punish someone for wrongdoing, then it's just going to happen.
Is it even wrongdoing if there's no punishment for it? Why would these people think they've done something wrong?
Who decides it's wrong? And obviously the British government don't decide it's wrong because they don't punish.
But Detective Chief Inspector Sarah White, again, we've got a Karen-occupied government at this point, right? She says, well, there's no place for this, and we have patrols of uniformed and specially trained plainclothes officers across the railway day and night to catch offenders and reassure passengers as they travel.
Really?
Yeah, not very many of them, if there are.
Apparently. I mean, so we've got a kind of feminist secret police to catch sexual harassers on the trains. It's like, okay, but it's not working if the numbers are up 50% in 2 years. But the British Transport Police, and I'm assuming this is run by men generally, have said, well, the rise is actually because more people are just more willing to report these crimes. But I don't believe that, because that's what the patriarchy would have us believe. Right, so
they say there are all these individuals in plain clothes reassuring passengers. How is someone in plain clothes that you don't know is there to help uphold the law? How is that helping the passenger?
Take my word for it. I'm part of the cops. I'm here to make sure you don't get raped.
Bobby's on the beat? No, we'll just have someone in plain clothes.
In India, don't they have segregated trains by sex?
Well,
just to keep men away from...
Interestingly, that's what we're going to end up with.
Oh, is it? Yeah, that's what we need, yeah. That's what Jess Phillips will need to introduce.
It's weird. There's a strange correlation of number of... Anyway. So, no, there are lots of feminists who are going on TV and saying, well, could we have gender-segregated carriages as well, please? I mean, what other options are there? How else can we square this circle? We've just got to keep the men and women away from each other, like a mosque.
And you need a trans carriage as well, a transfer.
Well,
that,
I mean...
Which, obviously, if they don't know what a woman is, how do you actually have this conversation?
That's progress.
This is...
segregated train carriages.
I will not hear this disgusting transphobia from you, Mr. Huckleberry. The transgender women will go in the women's carriage, and the transgender men will go in the women's carriage.
I'm confused already, sorry.
But that will be voluntary. Do you really want to be the only biological female in a carriage? Men who have been specifically segregated because they can't be trusted around women.
No, but you're safe, according to the government.
Be safe. And so, anyway, there are a lot of people watching this and on the panel who are saying, well, this is clearly the fault of immigration. But I have good news. We can't say that with any definitive certainty because the government just doesn't keep statistics on this.
Right.
This is from the Office of National Statistics, a request for information. As you can see from last year, you asked, I would like to know how many illegal immigrants and asylum seekers have been charged with murder and rape and other serious crimes. They said, we do not hold the information you requested as our data primarily focuses on the victims of crime. Oh, well, there we go. Crime is just something that happens, and we don't need to know anything about the perpetrators. And if you think, well, that was last year, maybe they've changed their practices. Nope. Same thing from this year, January. You said, I'd like statistics on migrants charged with murder, attempted murder, and rape. We don't hold that. Not our problem. Why are you asking? We don't have that information. So it could just be any man.
Asking the question gets you in trouble.
Not quite yet. You might get in trouble.
You'd be put on some sort of list, I would have imagined.
Possibly. But you just get sorry, we don't carry that information for some reason. We're only the Office of National Statistics. Why would we have rapes broken down by, say, immigrant status?
What a dereliction of duty, and obviously a deliberate one.
Yes.
And it's exactly the same thing on the grooming gangs, that actually they don't record the data. And when you ask for a breakdown, oops, we don't actually record that. But actually we may record it in the future, and some police forces are maybe advised to do it. But obviously you don't get a overall picture of the situation if you don't record the information, which is perfect for the government.
Well, that's a good point. So let's go back to the government. So this is the world that they're living in. They don't know. It's just men, just the undifferentiated mass of men who are, for some reason, in the last couple of years, really starting to ramp up the sexual assaults on women on the train carriages. And so how do you figure this out? Well, you think about what these people are taking in, and they're taking in their Twitter feed, and they're seeing Andrew Tate. So it must be that Andrew Tate is actually radicalizing young men to become misogynistic. He's just making young men hate women. Now, I'm not sure that's true, but senior police officer Maggie Blythe, again, Karen-occupied government, said that young men and boys could be radicalised in the same way as terrorists. Oh, can they? We know that some of this is also... Some of this? What percentage? You don't know because you don't keep the data. Which assume that some of this is linked to radicalisation of young people online. We know that influencers, Andrew Tate, he's the only name that they bring up, by the way, because he's the only misogynistic influencer they know of. Like, there are lots of others. There are loads of others. But they only know Andrew Tate because he's just a continual thing in their Twitter feed. He's the only thing they see.
It's the only one Channel 4 News and Radio 4 brought up to them. So that's
he's the only one who went on Piers Morgan. But Andrew Tate, the element of influencing particularly boys, is quite terrifying, and something that both the leads for counter-terrorism in the country and ourselves from violence against women and girls perspective are discussing.
Counter-terrorism.
Yeah. And Andrew Tate is being framed already as the misogyny terrorist, right? And they also tell us that there's been a 37% increase in the number of violent crimes against women and girls between 2018 and 2023.
I'm glad that having, 28,000 or 40,000 so-called terrorists on a watch list, I'm glad that they're sorting all those out with 24-hour observation, and they can now look at Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Oof.
Andrew Tate from another country is terrorising women in Britain.
Is there any connection with Mr. Tate converting to Islam? Does that influence the young boys?
They haven't brought that up because that would be Islamophobic. I was going to say misogynistic. But
and there's absolutely no crossover on the Venn diagram between those two things, between Islam and misogyny.
The data is not in.
They
do not keep that information.
Okay, no, fair enough.
They do say, look, between 2018 and 2023, something happened, and a graph went up, and there's been a 37% increase in the number of violent crimes against women and girls. Clearly, this is Andrew Tate. Right? Now, the question would be, okay, Andrew Tate got let back onto Twitter, a year ago? 2 years ago? He was banned from all of social media. How was he managing to radicalise all of these teenage boys without having access to social media? I would have thought that would have been a good question. But it doesn't matter because they've decided that it is Andrew Tate who is the sole cause of the increase in sex offences. And, of course, the government says it welcomes this new project too. And what their aim is to halve violence against women and girls over the next decade. And so what they've done is decided, well, you know what? It's just going to be terrorism. It's just going to be terrorism. Yvette Cooper, the very sensible feminist Karen, who has been banging this drum for decades now.
Yvette Balls.
Yeah, that's a bit of a patriarchal.
Mrs. Ed Balls.
You can see why she didn't take her husband's name, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But no, extreme misogyny, quote unquote, will be treated as terrorism. This means teachers will be legally required to refer pupils if they suspect them of extreme misogyny, so they'll be referred to Prevent, the same place that, Islamic jihadis get referred to.
If they suspect them of it.
Yeah. So if they think they've been watching Andrew Tate videos online, that's it. To the counter-terrorism police you go.
They suspect you know who Andrew Tate is.
You talk to anyone in a class and everyone, I guess just... Yeah. Actually, these people are jealous of the power of influencers on social media. I bet Vet Cooper wishes that she had the views and reach, because that's what it's about. And obviously filling in this massive gap, because men, obviously it's a women, girls, men and boys don't get to mention any of this. So if you're going to someone championing it...
Don't worry, they will.
In a prison cell.
No. In a positive light, trust me. They
jealous and scared.
No, they will. Don't worry, don't jump ahead. Right? So, so several extremism categories are going to be ranked by the Home Office. Islamism, right-wing extremism, animal rights extremism, environmental extremism, and Northern Ireland-related extremism.
What? I missed that. What's that?
I don't know.
Are they talking about the cathos or the proddies? Which one? I need to know which one.
Well, that's the thing. There seems to have been a bit of a consensus from the two warring factions in Ireland. Like, hang on a second, don't we have bigger problems at the moment? So yes, nothing about left-wing extremism, but I guess that's in the government. So I'm not surprised they're not bringing that up.
There's no such thing. They're on the right side of history at all times, right? So
that's what we've been told. But there's also a category for incel. Incel extremism, they think, is a massive problem. They think it's behind the violence against women and girls, the rise in violence, which I mean, you excessively online losers. Like, what are you talking about? As if Andrew Tate's like a model for incels. Yeah. Incels love Andrew Tate.
All right.
Anyway.
Aren't incels like introverted people that don't really go out?
Yeah,
aren't they the least
virgins.
Yeah.
The government's declared war on virgins.
Isn't every bloke who hasn't got laid yet, by definition, an incel?
Yes.
So
teenage virgins. That's the government's... I mean, you know a man by the quality of his enemies, right? And if the quality of the government's enemies are literally virgin teenagers, there's something wrong with them. But they are concerned that this category does not capture other forms of extreme misogyny. So, I don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah, what else
hitherto undiscovered forms of misogyny.
Seems to have covered most of the bases, yeah. I mean, what else is there?
I'm looking forward to seeing what these new forms are.
Imagine like a David Bellamy, we've just found a new undiscovered. Hiding under this rock for centuries.
But the thing is, and again, you think it gets more ridiculous. Sir Mark Rowley, of course, the Met Police Commissioner, suggested that violence against women and girls should be treated as a national security threat, on par with being invaded with Russia, I presume.
We need to build pillboxes up and down the country.
With to keep the incels out.
With overlapping fields of fire, yeah.
To be able to... Because of the incel terrorism against women on the train in London. Yes, London, just a hotbed of incels. Anyway, so what Vet Cooper is going to do is institute a rapid review, which will be completed in autumn, which will form the basis of a new counter-extremism strategy, which they intend to launch early next year. So they'll begin persecuting the incels and Andrew Tate in January next year, basically.
But they won't address any of the passages in the Hadith or the Quran that talk about...
Of course. We'll get to that in a minute as well. We'll get to that in a minute. And so they're conducting this rapid thing, and they're going to use this study on incels and Andrew Tate to underpin the criminalisation of extreme misogyny, whatever that's supposed to mean. And so Jess Phillips went on LBC, and I think we'll just watch it, actually, because it's just really...
Must we?
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I completely get there's a big educational sort of element to this, Jess, and the need to do more there. But I guess what I'm getting at is where do we draw that line between someone's opinions and someone's attitude, which we might not like, we might find abhorrent, but ultimately we live in a country where people are free to express opinions, on the one hand, and sort of police action and counter-terrorism intervention on the other? Is the line where we fear an attitude or an opinion is going to stray into a crime or an act of violence? Is that the line we have to draw?
Well, you just use the exact same test you would with far-right extremism and Islamism, wouldn't you? The same test would have to apply. And, you know, the idea that it's, I mean, people can hold their views about women that they, you know, all they like. And believe me, they let me know them all the time. I've had some choice emails just today, but it's not okay anymore to ignore the massive growing threat caused by online hatred towards women, and for us to ignore it because we're worried about the line rather than making sure the line is in the right place, as we would do with any other form of extremist ideology. I think, you know, it fails women and has failed women.
Right, that's incredible. What an incredible series of revelations. So Ben Kentish, like, so you are criminalizing opinions here, right? It's, you know, there's a distinction between saying something and taking an act. And of course, English common law always criminalizes acts and not opinions. There's no such thing as a thought crime. At least
used to be.
Yeah, historically. No precedent for a thought crime. And so Ben's like, well, look, where's the line going to be between, you know, someone puts out an opinion and it becomes criminal? And she's like, I don't care.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I don't care. People are sending me messages online. That's literally the core of her argument is, well, people are sending me messages online and I want that criminalised. Oh, great. So we've got a woke thought police that's going to be operating in this country where you are literally going to be criminalised for tweeting at Jess Phillips. Like, I mean, what the hell's going on?
Justice.
But
Progress.
But Labour MPs have threatened us with leaving X, leaving Twitter. I mean, just go. Woman, go.
If only. But this is the point. She just comes out and just basically admits, yeah, no, this is going to be a woke thought police. It's not going to be about your actions. It's going to be about whether I personally feel offended. And we don't care where the line is. We're spending far too much time worrying about the line. This is dangerous to women and girls. It's like, but you don't know that. You've proven no connection. You don't know that anyone radicalised by Andrew Tate is sexually assaulting someone on the London Underground. You don't know that for anything. There are lots of other reasons that I would suggest are maybe a lot more prosaic, but anyway, it doesn't matter. They're going to be criminalising your opinions. So, you know.
And your thoughts. That's the whole, because hate is an emotion. So now we criminalise. So a whole list of emotions, and I'm assuming you'll not be allowed out of your house until you've got a happy emotion or a caring emotion, and you must stay locked in until you can swipe your new card that you'll get. And then in extremism, what is extreme? What?
Well,
extreme good
isn't, you know, the line. Worrying about where the line is, you know, doing a disservice to women and girls. So I mean, like stabbing three girls in Southport, that wasn't terrorism. That wasn't misogyny, right? However, Andrew Tate being a dick on Twitter, that is misogyny. That is terrorism. You've got to understand, right? And obviously, there are going to be lots of people going, well, I mean, there are certain communities in this country that I mean, that definitely doesn't look like a hostage situation there, did it? You know, there are certain communities in this country that may have views that could be described as to the right of Andrew Tate on women. Are they misogynist terrorists? Is a single grooming gang member going to be declared a terrorist over this? Or is that not misogyny?
Is it misogyny having those meetings and not allowing women to come unless you're Angela Rayner?
Well, yeah. I mean, the 500 migrants broke into the country yesterday. Are they misogynists? Have we asked them their opinions on women?
Do you remember the thing about the Garrick Club a few months back? Where it was like a male-only club?
Yeah.
And then after
they
two or three... Yeah, they were forced to open it up. And when Tice was asked, he said, yeah, no, they should. There shouldn't be male-only spaces. 2 or 3 days into that news cycle, someone mentioned, what about mosques? Suddenly the whole debate is just dropped. We won't talk about male-only spaces anymore.
Well, talking about male-only spaces. Channel Dinies are male-only spaces, actually. Yeah. And so, does anyone ask these people their opinions on women? No, actually. And you were saying, well, look, you know, we're not going to criminalise misandry. Yes, we are, but only against the migrants. Only against the channel refugees, because, quote, they are victims too. You've got to understand, we've demonised and dehumanised all of these people. It's not on. It's not on. So the feminists have become men's rights activists, but just for foreign males who arrive here illegally.
Oh, because if white males shoot themselves in the head, according to Clive Lewis, that's funny.
Yeah.
Do you remember him on the front benches, like going?
Yes.
Yeah.
What a scumbag!
We've got genuinely a feminist-occupied, Karen-based government that is actively evil and against the native men of this country. They just say it. They're all for the foreign men, but they're against the native men, and they assume you are the ones harassing women on the tube. Even though if you go on the tube, you look around, and where are they then?
Well, that's what the Home Office adverts show, don't they? They always show a white dude harassing a woman of colour somewhere in a park or whatever. That's what the adverts say. So,
and I thought I'd just end this by noting that concurrent to all of this, and I assume totally unrelated to it all, women have coincidentally started discovering modesty. Weirdly, I covered up for a week to see if men would stop harassing me. The results shocked me. Oh, did you? Why did you feel the need, London-based journalist Sama Ansari Poor? Why did you feel the need to do that? Because the English men were just like, well, just... Anyway, well, I think actually with this one, we'll save this for a lad's hour, because this is just, honestly, the article is such gold.
It's interesting, actually. In like the 1950s or early 60s, when sort of the bikini became a thing, people were a lot more straight-laced before the war.
Oh, yeah.
When the bikini became a thing, or mini skirts became a thing, there was in the West, in Britain, there wasn't a massive spike in sex crime and things.
Was there not?
No.
Oh wow, really?
No.
Who could have imagined? But anyway,
but now you need to cover up.
Yeah, coincidentally, women are realising actually maybe a burqa isn't a bad thing.
Burqa would be a perfect way of protecting them from these bad men. That's how it works in the Middle East, so why shouldn't it work here?
Exactly.
Or better yet, don't let them out on their own.
Yes, keep them all hidden.
Always got to have them with a male member of their family.
Make sure they're not in any spaces where men are as well. Hi folks, thanks for watching. We really appreciate all of your support because, of course, without you guys actually subscribing to lotuses.com, none of this would be possible because YouTube has decided we're on the naughty list and are not allowed to monetize our videos. So if you'd like to support us, go over to lotuses.com, sign up, and go and watch Dan Tubbs' amazing series Brokenomics about this particular episode, about the economic consequences of the riots in England, because there are, of course, going to be some and negative ones. And go and follow us on X at lotuseaters_com.